After Mikhail's attempt to kill the Nemesis had failed, it gave Jill and Carlos a chance to escape from the Nemesis, as he had been blown off the train with little to no damage. He continues to hunt down Jill, but in the manhua of Resident Evil 3, this is the moment when he comes face to face with William Birkin in his G-infected form. Both brutes know their strength and what they're capable of, so without a second thought, they approach one another and prepare for an intense battle. The Nemesis strikes first. Birkin dodges it, but not the second strike. This blow angers Birkin, and he follows up with a powerful strike with the enormous claws from his right arm. This does little to nothing to the Nemesis, and he retaliates back with a much more powerful punch that even Birkin did not see coming. Birkin continues to strike his opponent's face with his deadly claws, pushing the Nemesis back, just as he too was pushed back with a punch to his abdomen. But instead of fighting back with another powerful attack, the Nemesis decided to use his second deadliest weapon, his rocket launcher. He quickly aims, shoots a rocket directly at Birkin, landing the hit, which sends Birkin far back, crashing onto the remains of the train. The Nemesis does not give Birkin a chance to recover, and he follows up by beating his opponent with his own fists, each hit becoming even stronger than the previous one. Birkin appears to be in danger of losing this fight, and the Nemesis is prepared to end his fight once and for all. He reaches out to his opponent, but suddenly, he begins having flashbacks of his previous life, before he became the Nemesis. Here we see that he was once a professional boxer with a wife and child that he loved, and as he continues to beat his opponent with his fists, he remembers doing the same in his career as a boxer, a professional boxer, claiming multiple victories, which made him the perfect test subject for Umbrella's new Tyrant project. But as he grabs onto Birkin's mutated shoulder eye, his flashbacks continue to flash before his eyes, distracting him from his present fight against Birkin. But he now remembers the moment when Umbrella framed him and put him behind bars, just to perform a deadly experiment which would be the start of a tragic ongoing nightmare. He begins losing control as he gains more memories of his past life, giving Birkin a chance to recover and fight back. Birkin starts to mutate into his second form, giving him not just the chance to recover, but gain even more strength and speed than before. Birkin is now ready for the second round, and as soon as the Nemesis strikes, Birkin is able to catch his opponent's fist and counter with a much more deadlier attack than before. His right arm has gained additional muscle mass, and that single strike pierces through the torso of the Nemesis. But it's not over, as Birkin begins to crush his opponent's insides in hopes of ending the fight and claiming victory against the Nemesis himself. The Nemesis continues to have flashbacks, which continue to interfere with his fight, but now he has triggered a part of his memory which was an even worse experience than his transformation into the Nemesis, seeing what happened to his wife and child. We now see that before Umbrella dropped the parasite into his body, he was given a chance to see his loved ones one last time, before they took matters into their own hands. An executive of Umbrella is shown to enjoy torturing him before placing the parasite into his body, but then the Umbrella executive orders his men to bring in the test subject's wife. They tie her up, and the executive gets a syringe and injects the wife of the Nemesis with a virus that instantly begins to turn her into a zombie. But to make matters worse, they begin shooting her multiple times in front of him. Now they bring in another victim, his son, and without any remorse, the Umbrella executive proceeds to inject the boy with the same virus. Witnessing the death of his wife and son, the Nemesis gets a hold of himself and continues to fight Birkin with everything he's got, even after receiving a crushing move from William Birkin. Nothing tops off the pain of witnessing his own wife and child die by the hands of Umbrella. That bald executive killed his family in front of him, and nothing, not even Birkin, was going to stand in his way of his revenge. So he continues to hit Birkin with everything he's got, and he manages to strike Birkin with an even stronger punch. Even after Birkin managed to mutate into his second form, he still hasn't claimed victory. The Nemesis continues to pulverize his opponent, and as he strikes William Birkin with multiple hits, the tentacles from inside the body of the Nemesis begin rising, giving him additional strength, and in the end, he managed to bury William Birkin into the ground with one punch after another, winning the fight. The Nemesis cries out with a victorious yell before continuing his hunt for Jill Valentine. Once the Nemesis is gone, the ground begins to shake, and Birkin rises from beneath the ground, exposing his giant right arm, with the possibility of already mutating into his third form. The Nemesis won this fight, but it's not over yet, and we'll be taking a look at the rematch. As you can see, this fight was intense. Both brutes went all out, and even Birkin needed to mutate into his second form to put up a fight. You never would have believed it if you hadn't seen it, but it's a good thing that the manhua of Resident Evil 3 gave us the chance to see what a fight between these two would have been like. After Birkin's fight with the Nemesis ended, the Nemesis decided to continue his search for Jill Valentine and Carlos Oliveira. He managed to find them and infect Jill, and fortunately for her, Carlos did an outstanding job protecting her and even managed to find a cure for the infection she received from the Nemesis. He was even capable of further damaging the Nemesis while Jill was unconscious, but now that the Nemesis has received further injuries, the parasite in his DNA continues to mutate his body in order to enhance his abilities. He cannot heal or regenerate from any injuries, which explains why he had to stitch his own eye, but he will be capable of sustaining the same amount of damage inflicted on him. And as the Nemesis continues to destroy areas of the clock tower, this gives away his location to Birkin. And now that Birkin has found his arch rival, the Nemesis, he can finally get the rematch he's been dying for. Birkin steps down in front of Nemesis, revealing that he's mutated and become much stronger than before, but the Nemesis shows no fear towards his opponent and prepares to crush Birkin with everything he's got. Birkin and Nemesis are face to face, waiting for the first one to strike. The ground begins to shake, crows abandon the trees, even centipedes crawl out of the dirt, and the ground crumbles as both brutes leap towards each other. But it wasn't the intensity and strength of Birkin and the Nemesis that caused the ground to shake. It was in fact the Gravedigger, and the tremendous creature's presence and interruption causes no effect to either one of them, and they begin with the rematch. Both Birkin and Nemesis land a powerful strike on each other. Nemesis got punctured right above this stitched eye, and he laid a powerful punch on Birkin's torso. The Gravedigger attacks the closest prey, which is Birkin, and it swallows him whole after he was pushed back by his opponent's strike. But the Nemesis isn't through with his opponent as the fight has just begun, so he attacks the Gravedigger by crushing its inner teeth and leaps inside the Gravedigger's mouth. Right away he finds Birkin and continues their fight, and as they proceed with their fight inside the Gravedigger, a helicopter owned by Umbrella flies nearby, and it appears to be the senior executive of Umbrella himself. Even the bald executive is on board, as their reason for being there is to simply spectate the fight between Birkin and the Nemesis. We then see that tentacles are ripping through the Gravedigger's body from the inside, and both the Nemesis and Birkin tear themselves out of the Gravedigger's body. But all this still wasn't enough to bring it down, and it proceeds to interrupt their fight. Only this time, the Nemesis has had enough, and as soon as the Gravedigger closes in on him, he lands a powerful hit on the towering creature and proceeds to land countless heavy blows on the Gravedigger. Even Birkin jumps in at the opportunity to remove this immeasurable indignation, but this does not stop them from killing each other, as every strike performed is meant to inflict damage on anything surrounding them. This creates an immense whirlwind which causes the helicopter to nearly crash, but Birkin and Nemesis continue to thrust heavy attacks onto one another. Birkin grabs Nemesis by his head and slams him into the ground, then continues to strike the Nemesis while he's down, all while the Gravedigger is being completely demolished by the forces of two deadly brutes that are trying everything to kill each other. Every attack that misses easily lands on the Gravedigger, and nothing is able to stop them from brutally beating each other down. The bald executive is surprised to see just how much destruction they've caused, and still continue to collide with one another. They then proceed to strike with fiercer attacks. Birkin swings his oversized arms, slicing anything in its way, and Nemesis uses his tentacle whips to slash through its surroundings. This completely annihilates the Gravedigger, cutting it into pieces, and finally getting this tremendous creature out of their way. After the blood and smoke clears, it is revealed that the Nemesis managed to tear Birkin's enormous arms off, and Birkin managed to slice off almost every tentacle whip surrounding the Nemesis, but they still refuse to give up. The bald executive is overjoyed to see both brutes obliterate each other, awaiting to see them tear each other down to shreds. The senior executive is pleased with the results, but they possess too much power, and this could be a problem if they cannot be controlled. As both Birkin and the Nemesis continue to fight, the bald executive is given orders by his superior to try and command the Nemesis to execute his opponent immediately. The Nemesis receives this command, and in the split of a second, he tightly grabs onto Birkin's wrists, gains enough strength to thrust kick Birkin while completely tearing his arms off, leaving him extremely defenseless. Birkin is left gushing with blood, and yet the Nemesis continues to pulverize him with one punch after another. But when it's time to land the final hit, he not only strikes Birkin with a powerful punch, but he also unleashes additional tentacles from his arm which tear Birkin into pieces. The senior executive immediately orders the pilot to shoot down the Nemesis, as he believes that even though they are capable of giving him orders, he will surely defy them once he finds out that they're the ones responsible for what's become of him. They land many shots on him, and he's about to flee the area, but a much better action occurs to him, and he decides to face the chopper, jump towards it, and use his arm tentacles to grab onto it and bring it down. This successfully works, and the chopper crashes onto the floor, killing the pilot and the woman sitting next to the senior executive. He, along with the bald executive, managed to survive the crash, but not for long, as the Nemesis approaches the helicopter, tears through the locked door, and faces the bald executive, who is utterly frightened and unable to command the Nemesis to spare him. But even if he tried to give him that order, there is no way that he could possibly spare this man's life, as he was the one who took his family away from him and turned him into another test subject for Umbrella. He killed his wife and child in front of him. He laughed and took pleasure of injecting them with the T-virus just to have them quickly turn into a zombie and instantly get shot with multiple rounds. He grabs the bald executive and slowly proceeds to bite his head clean off, finally avenging the death of his wife and child. Surprisingly, the senior executive showed no signs of emotion towards what just happened. After everything he's seen here, he isn't terrified at all. He does not even move from his seat, even when the Nemesis is now facing him. It is unsure whether he does not fear death or he was hoping for those results. But suddenly, it appears that Birkin isn't down, and he actually managed to mutate yet again. He attacks Nemesis from behind and tosses him aside. This time, the senior executive stands up and faces Birkin in his fourth mutation. After all the chaos and destruction caused by these two unpredictable brutes, they've taken so much punishment, and yet they refuse to give up. The Nemesis was on the brink of killing William Birkin, but the interference caused by the chopper gave Birkin the opportunity to mutate yet again, and become even stronger than his recent transformation. Nemesis was about to kill the Umbrella executive, and Birkin surprised Nemesis with a ruthless attack from behind. Now, Birkin is facing the Umbrella executive, and for a moment, it appears that he is still showing his loyalty towards his superior. But he has no intentions of staying loyal with the Umbrella executive, as it was their betrayal that led to him having to inject the G-virus into his own body. Birkin reached for the executive's head, but the Nemesis recovers and grabs Birkin's arm, interrupting what should have took place. But now, they can continue with the final rematch. No more pacing, no helicopter to interrupt the fight. Just a simple slugfest between these brutal tyrannies that will never accept defeat. The Umbrella executive watches the fight, but he does not observe for too long, as every clash creates a clamorous tremor that will bring the attention of other dangerous adversaries. As he flees the area, it is revealed that his assistant survived the helicopter crash and still provided her assistance to get the CEO out of this extremely dangerous area. As they drive away, his assistant tells him, "Boss, the Nemesis has begun to reply to his memories, believing that the chip in his brain has gone out of control. What do we do next?" The CEO replies, "Take me to the warehouse in Raccoon City." Are there only 2 soldiers left in the UBCS? As it turns out, before the Umbrella organization sent out the UBCS, they had already mastered its data and information and then hid the signal. As long as they're connected to the satellites, everything is immediately apparent. He sends a message to the remaining UBCS members, and we go back to Birkin and the Nemesis. The Umbrella CEO was wise to flee the area, as every zombie and creature that Jill and Carlos had been facing off against did in fact make an appearance in the dead zone, including additional gravediggers. They make their way towards William Birkin and the Nemesis, and both brutes missed their opportunities to kill the CEO. Now that they are surrounded by these carnivorous creatures, their struggle to kill each other continues to be interrupted, almost as if their fates must take a different path. Yet their persistency to kill one another drains any possibilities of ending this fight in a draw. and with all the strength in them, they pulverized every zombie and creature near them, even when they had the numbers to overcome anyone or anything that was caught in the middle of this terrifying and overpopulated zone. Nothing could get in the way of their brutal wrath. Both the Nemesis and Birkin clear a path, and they continue with their brawl. Nemesis strikes first, then Birkin blocks his oncoming attack. But when blocking it, Birkin was still pushed back by his resistant power, even if Birkin has raised his strength by transforming yet again. And like before, his mutation gave him 2 enormous arms to give him an advantage against Nemesis. Birkin retaliates by pulverizing Nemesis with multiple powerful strikes, and with his new mutational strength, Nemesis cannot keep up and defend himself against these deadly blows, and he continues taking massive hits without getting the chance to fight back or even block any of his oncoming attacks. And as you can see by now, Nemesis is beginning to lose the fight. For a moment, he tries another fierce punch directly at Birkin's ribs, which Birkin catches before it lands, and he immediately fires back with several vigorous strikes that leave Nemesis with 0 chances of countering back, each strike becoming fiercer than ever. Nemesis is thrown far back, crashing through a broken building, and with all the punishment he's received, he cannot find any more strength within him to pick himself up and give it one final shot against this overpowering brute that stands before him. Birkin and Nemesis have fought for what seemed like the most intense battle that ever took place, turning Raccoon City from a zombie outbreak to a trembling battle zone. Their fight was so fierce that every creature seen in Resident Evil 3 made their appearance in hopes of finding more survivors, but ending up becoming casualties of Nemesis and Birkin's ferocious battle. Before their fight took place, Birkin was betrayed by Umbrella and they attempted to steal the G-Virus from him, but after injecting it into himself, he became more unstoppable than the T-00s, which proved to be even deadlier than the previous tyrants. And one thing William Birkin made sure he'd do with the virus was that the bacteria inside the virus could produce the next generation of super soldiers with his close relatives. This added an increase in his mutational abilities, which was powerful enough to defeat any tyrant that was created by Umbrella, including the Nemesis. The Nemesis has always had to push himself to his maximum limits even before he became the Nemesis, but Birkin's G-Virus seems to have no limits. He has been broken and torn to pieces, but he continues to put himself together and become even stronger every time he's put down. But now, it's time to finish this intense battle once and for all. Birkin prepares his final crushing move, thrusts his razor-sharp claws directly at his opponent's face, which is shockingly blocked right before landing on the Nemesis, and it is unveiled to be Mr. X. But what's even more surprising is that he is not alone, and 4 other T-00s happen to make an appearance at this battle zone to put an end to Birkin before he manages to escape. And now, with the aid of 5 T-00s, Nemesis has one last chance to take Birkin down for good. It's now or never. All 5 tyrants team up against Birkin, landing hits and giving him no chance to fight back by pushing forward and striking all at the same time. Nemesis tries to get back up on his feet and regain some of his strength before it's too late, and by now, Birkin is keeping up with the 5 tyrants that are working together to bring him down. They try surrounding him, but with Birkin having 4 arms, he continues to hold his own and pulverize them without having to split them up and take one down at a time. At one point, he grabs 4 of them as the 5th Mr. X dashes towards him, and he smashes all their heads together, causing the same critical damage to each one. Birkin has dealt with the impossible and tossed them all aside like they were pocket change. Fortunately, this was enough of a distraction for Nemesis to strike Birkin with a deadly blow from behind. The force of this powerful attack buried Birkin's head through the ground, and it gave the T-00s a chance to recover. And together, including Nemesis, they grab a hold of Birkin, proceed to pull each limb with as much strength needed to tear his limbs off. Nemesis grabs onto Birkin's head, charges his final attack, and lands a devastating uppercut that tears Birkin's head off. At the same time, the T-00s manage to rip his limbs off as well. Together with the combined strength of 5 T-00 tyrants and the Nemesis, William Birkin was vanquished. As Birkin's limbs were hurled aside, Nemesis knew that he had to make sure that Birkin would no longer mutate yet again, becoming an even bigger threat to him. So he immediately begins knocking out each surrounding tyrant so that they don't prevent him from disposing of Birkin's core. It doesn't take more than a single punch from a pissed off Nemesis to knock each one of them out. Only one Mr. X was able to resist the attack, and seeing as his opponent is extremely dangerous, Mr. X promptly begins mutating into his stronger form in order to put up a fight against his new enemy. Nemesis moves towards Birkin's remaining core and reaches out to crush it and prevent another rematch. But the evolved Mr. X dashes towards him and begins the fight, delivering many quick and fierce attacks to his opponent. The Nemesis is pushed back, further away from Birkin's core, even crashing through another building. Mr. X appears to have victory by his side, and one can only imagine if the remaining T-00s were as resistant as this one, Nemesis wouldn't stand a chance against 5 T-00s in their final forms. But without them, he still stands a chance, even after everything he's had to deal with, which led to this new challenger. And that's what he is, a new challenger, just another opponent in the ring. Both brutes charge towards each other. Nemesis strikes first with a powerful left hook, and Mr. X catches the oncoming attack, and instead of striking back, he decides to use his new strength and push the Nemesis back, and prove he's much more powerful than his opponent. However, this new strength is still not strong enough to push back the Nemesis, and he is thrown back onto the wall where he recently crashed through after resisting the first hit. Only this time, he does not get back up. And now no one, no Tyrant, no Umbrella Soldiers, and no STARS members can prevent him from crushing Birkin's core. The Nemesis approaches Birkin's core and crushes it, which should be enough to prevent him from further mutating. The Nemesis has won the fight. There were many interruptions that took place throughout their fights, and it took an insane amount of effort to put one of them down. The Nemesis walks away from the battleground and continues his search for the remaining STARS member, Jill Valentine. William Birkin may have lost the fight, but he was still not dead. As it turns out, an eyeball slipped through the sewage drain, allowing Birkin to escape and mutate without anyone stopping him. This would be the reason why Birkin's final form is this horrific, and it no longer has any arms or legs to maneuver around. Birkin mutated from an eyeball into this enormous monstrosity, at least for the manhua version. But we finally came to an end. We've determined the winner. And with that said, that's it for the video. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button to give this video a chance to grow. I'd like to thank all my Patreon supporters for their impeccable generosity. Your support means a lot to me, and you are part of the reason why I try to make the best content that I can. And if you like this content, check out the rest of my channel. You'll find more entertainment from separate franchises I like to cover, such as Mortal Kombat, Dragon Ball Z, Celebrity Deathmatch, Men in Black, The Mask, Batman comics, The Terminator, TMNT, Dino Crisis, Resident Evil, and more. If you're a Patreon supporter, check out my exclusive videos such as the Gantz content. And if you'd like to show your support, go to my Patreon and support the channel, which is only $1. Sacrifice that McChicken for extra quality content, my friend. But anyways, I'll see you all in the next video, and remember to have an awesome day.